In the sacred heart of Jerusalem, where every stone bears centuries of faith, rises a golden dome that gleams in the sun, but hides in its shadows a forgotten truth. This is not just a building. It is an age-old mystery. It is a historical error, carefully hidden under layers of gold and silence. Beneath the dome of the rock lies one of the most sacred sites on the planet. The exact spot where, according to tradition, God began to create the world, and where the spiritual destiny of humanity may be sealed. But what you may not know is that Israel did indeed have the chance to destroy it in 1967. And did not. And what lies beneath? Tunnels, hidden chambers, forgotten landmarks, and perhaps, the greatest secret of the Judeo-Christian faith. Even more surprising, the design of the dome is not original. It was inspired by an ancient Byzantine church. Why? Get ready for a profound journey, because in this video, you will understand what no one has ever told you about the Dome of the Rock. But first, subscribe to the channel. Each subscription is a gift that you give to God, because this way the word can be sent to more people. The Temple Mount, one of the holiest and most contested places on earth. As soon as you enter, you get the feeling, there is something different about this land. Israeli guardians, Palestinian watchmen, religious people of different faiths. They all constantly monitor every movement in that place. And then the inevitable question arises. Who, after all, controls this sacred space? Thousands of Jews climb the Temple Mount every year. And this number is only growing. But with this increase, tensions also arise. The Muslim community is not satisfied, and every year, clashes occur between Israeli and Palestinian forces. The Temple Mount has become a fine line between faith and conflict. For Jews, it is the holiest place on the planet. It was there, according to the Torah, that Abraham was willing to sacrifice Isaac, his son. And it was exactly on this spot that the temple was built. Although the sacrifice was not completed, God provided a ram as a substitute, an act that would seal an eternal promise. But Muslims see it differently. According to their tradition, it was Ishmael, not Isaac, who was offered for sacrifice. Abraham had two sons, the elder, Ishmael, with Hagar, his servant. The younger, Isaac, with Sarah, his wife. In Judaism, Isaac is the son of promise. In Islam, Ishmael is the one chosen by Allah. And this is where the conflict takes shape, a clash of origins, faith and spiritual heritage. It is important to remember, although the Quran does not clearly state which son was offered, the Torah states without a shadow of a doubt that it was Isaac, the son preserved by God to begin the nation of Israel. And that changes everything. Abraham had other sons besides Ishmael and Isaac. After Sarah's death, he married Keturah and had more descendants. Zimran, Jokshan, Medan, Midian, Ishbak. Genesis 25 verses 1-4. But not every descendant of Abraham is considered a child of promise. In the New Testament, we learn that the church is the spiritual seed of Abraham. But that doesn't make the church the same as Israel. To be part of the people of Israel, you have to do more. Be a descendant of Isaac. And then of Jacob. Yet both Judaism and Islam have deep roots tied to the Temple Mount. This spiritual connection makes the site not only sacred, but also an inevitable focus of religious tension. If the origin story begins with conflict, we shouldn't be surprised that tension persists to this day. And this is not just a political dispute. It is an issue that touches the very foundations of each faith. There is no reconciliation possible if neither side is willing to give up its fundamental beliefs. For the Jewish people, what is happening today on the Temple Mount is a living tragedy. A foreign faith occupies the heart of their spirituality. They do not have access to the foundation stone beneath the dome of the rock. That stone connects them to Abraham, to Isaac, and to the ancient temples built by Solomon and Zerubbabel. And according to Jewish oral tradition, that stone is the cornerstone on which God began the creation of the world. It was the starting point, the center of the divine plan. That is why this place is, to this day, vital to Israel's identity. The Temple Mount is like a living historical mosaic. The rock beneath the dome is what remains of the most original form of the sacred mountain. But getting there is not so simple. If you are not Muslim or do not have special permission, access is prohibited. Not even Jews, with all their spiritual connection, are an exception. Many followers of the channel always ask the same question. Why don't they destroy the Dome of the Rock? But the answer is complex. This is no ordinary building. It is a sacred symbol to more than 1.8 billion Muslims, nearly 1 in 4 people in the world. Furthermore, the Dome of the Rock is recognized as a UNESCO World Heritage Site. Any attack on it would bring immediate international condemnation. Israel is not willing to pay that price. Some even argue that it would fit with the prophecies, which speak of a time when Israel will face opposition from the entire world. But for now, the Israeli government is committed to protecting the site, including from Jewish extremists who want to destroy it. Because they know, if anything happens there, the blame will fall entirely on Israel. And if you think a conflict of this scale is unlikely, just look at recent history. 1967, the Six-Day War. One of the most remarkable episodes of the 20th century. Israel faced a coalition of Arab nations. Egypt, Jordan, Syria. It was a short war, but a decisive one. And it changed the geopolitical map of the Middle East. Israel conquered the Gaza Strip and Sinai from Egypt, the West Bank and East Jerusalem from Jordan, and the Golan Heights from Syria. But the most symbolic point was this. For the first time in nearly 2,000 years, the Jewish people regained access to the Western Wall and the Temple Mount. For the Israeli soldiers, it was a moment of profound spiritual upheaval. To pray there, where their ancestors had worshipped, where God dwelt among men, was like stepping through time and touching the eternal. It all began at 2 a.m. on June 6. The paratroopers, under the command of Colonel Madager, advanced across no man's land. One battalion engaged Jordanian resistance on Ammunition Hill, one of the bloodiest battles of the war, with hand-to-hand combat in the trenches. Another battalion headed toward the Rockefeller Museum, a huge complex built in the 1930s to house archaeological relics. On the morning of June 7, Israeli Prime Minister Levi Eshkol made a final plea to King Hussein of Jordan. If he agreed to negotiate peace, they would not invade. June 6, 1967. Jordan's response never came. Then, Israeli forces received the order that would change history, to advance on the old city of Jerusalem. The paratroopers did not know what awaited them in the narrow alleys of that ancient city. But they pressed on with their hearts racing. Colonel Madager led the attack. They broke down a heavy bronze gate on the Via Dolorosa and raced toward the Temple Mount. They climbed the steps, panting. And before them, the great plaza appeared. Ahead, the golden dome of the Rock and the silver dome of the Al-Aqsa Mosque. Then came the historic message, radioed to headquarters. The Temple Mount is in our hands. This was not just a military report. It was the culmination of an age-old dream. The holiest site in Judaism, the one they had prayed for centuries in exile, was now under Israeli control. Ezra Orn, the brigade's communications chief, took an Israeli flag from his backpack and asked Colonel Gur, "Should we raise it over the Dome of the Rock?" Gur replied firmly, "Go ahead." They climbed to the top and tied the blue and white flag to the flagpole, high above the Islamic crescent. From Mount Scopus, Defense Minister Moshe Dayan watched everything through binoculars. Alarmed, he immediately radioed Gur. "Do you want to set the entire Middle East on fire?" Gur understood the gravity of the situation. He ordered the flag to be removed immediately. Orn did not have the courage to do it himself. He asked another soldier to remove it. And so it was, at that decisive moment, that Israel showed restraint, even in the face of the most symbolic conquest in its history. The Jewish people had finally recovered their most sacred place. But they chose not to take full control of the Temple Mount. It was the moment when Israel could have claimed full sovereignty over the site. After all, they were at war, under existential threat. But they did not. And to this day, they still have not. This gesture continues to generate debate in Israel. Did Moshe Dayan act wisely, or weakly? But let's put politics aside for a moment, and return to that silent rock beneath the Golden Dome. If you look closely, you'll notice marks, cuts, and carvings made over the centuries. Let's not forget that after the destruction of the Second Temple, the site was visited by Romans, Christians, and Muslims. Each civilization left its mark. They carved, modified, built, and even removed fragments to use elsewhere. Renowned scholar Leon Rittmeyer has devoted his life to studying this rock. He discovered something fascinating. The stone beneath the dome of the rock looked very different in its original state. One important detail can still be seen today. A well-marked natural depression. During the Crusades, the perception of the site changed radically. The Crusaders cut away parts of the rock and covered it with stone slabs. On top of this, they built a main altar, leaving only the eastern part exposed. The Arab historian Gabriel, an expert on the Crusades, reports that when the Muslims retook Jerusalem, Sultan Saladin ordered the rock to be covered with marble, using remains of destroyed structures. Unfortunately, the Crusaders were aggressive. They cut away parts of the rock and took fragments to Constantinople, and even to Italy. But Rittmeyer's discovery goes beyond archaeology. He claims that by aligning the position of the ancient temple with one of the cuts still visible in the stone, this point coincides exactly with the Holy of Holies of Solomon's temple. And there's more. If you measure the cut, you'll see that it is exactly 2.5 royal cubits. The sacred cubit, used in the construction of the temple, measured approximately 52.5 centimeters. According to the Torah, the Ark of the Covenant was 2.5 by 1.5 cubits. So why is this cutout 2.5 cubits wide? The answer, according to Rittmeyer, is found in Deuteronomy 31 verse 26. The Torah scroll was placed next to the Ark. In other words, the space would have been enlarged to house both, the Ark and the sacred scroll. A simple but brilliant explanation. To illustrate this hypothesis, I prepared an exclusive animation. It shows the current location of the rock, and how the temples of Solomon and Herod would have been aligned on it. Here you can see the plan made by Rittmeyer, with the dome of the rock, the shape of the stone, and the exact position of Herod's temple. But be careful. The rock visible today does not mark the exact center of the threshing floor of Araunah the Jebusite, which was purchased by David. This threshing floor was the place where Solomon and, later, Herod built the altar. Some argue the rock under the dome can't be the threshing floor, because it's not flat. But this misses a crucial point. The threshing floor marked the site of the altar, not the Holy of Holies. When we look at the current layout of the Temple Mount structures, we see that the floor of the ancient threshing floor would have been right there. If we visualize what the inside of the temple would have looked like with this rock in place, we get a revealing picture. But wait, there's more. Did you know that there are actual caves beneath the dome of the rock? And that some believe that it may be hidden. The real Ark of the Covenant? Yes, inside the dome, there is a cave. Only Muslims have access to it. It's called the Well of Souls. And it's used as an Islamic prayer space. But this is no ordinary cave. It's shrouded in mystery, theories, and ancient legends. In 2015, they decided to replace the carpet covering the cave floor. During the process, rare images of the interior emerged. Beneath the carpet, a beautifully decorated floor was revealed, with patterns that almost no one outside the Islamic world knows about. But, to this day, very little is known about its origin, especially with regard to the period of the Crusades. What is under that rock? Could it be the key to rediscovering the past? Or even the place where the presence of God will dwell again? The mysteries continue. And in the next part, you will see how all of this may be linked to the prophecies of the end times. Underneath the dome of the rock, there is something that few imagine. A mysterious cave. In the past, some called it the Holy of Holies. Others believed that there, at that very spot, the archangels announced the birth of John the Baptist. But as we said before, it is more likely that the Ark of the Covenant was on the rock, and not under it. The explorer and Arabist Sir Richard Francis Burton put forward an intriguing theory. According to him, this cave was dug for the purpose of collecting the blood that was sprinkled on the Ark of the Covenant during sacred rituals. This blood, according to his hypothesis, would then be channeled to the Valley of Hinnom. But the story does not end there. Another researcher, Amrite Parodi, went even further. He claimed that there is an even deeper cave, located below the so-called Cave of Souls. According to his theory, this underground chamber could have been used to hide secrets related to the true location of the Arkansas. Interestingly, Burton himself also wrote that, in the center of the Cave of Souls, there is a sealed opening that probably leads to a hidden room. Parodi even drew detailed maps, underground chambers, secret tunnels, blocked passages, all of this under the Temple Mount. He claims to have personally accessed this deepest chamber through a secret tunnel. But it is not only modern scholars who believe in this possibility. Jewish tradition also contains surprising accounts. It claims that King Solomon, inspired by divine revelation, knew that the first temple would one day be destroyed. That is why the wisest man in history ordered the construction of a vast system of tunnels, passages and hidden chambers beneath the Temple Mount complex. In this underground system, Solomon ordered a special place to be prepared to store the sacred objects, in case of an invasion or imminent threat. And this is where another essential figure comes in, King Josiah, some 40 years before the destruction of the first temple. Midrashic tradition says that Josiah ordered the Levites to hide the Ark of the Covenant, along with the original menorah and other sacred vessels, in this secret hiding place planned centuries earlier by Solomon. Today, the Temple Institute in Jerusalem claims to have reliable records of the exact location of the Arkansas. They assure us that the relic is still hidden and intact, waiting for the prophetic moment to be revealed. What's more, they claim that there are people alive today who know exactly where it is. In fact, years ago, according to the Institute, an actual attempt was made to excavate towards the supposed chamber. But what followed was a huge international uproar and an immediate response from the Islamic authorities. Why? Because, according to the Institute, the Muslim guardians of the Temple Mount know very well what would happen if the Ark were discovered. The revelation of its existence would prove beyond a shadow of a doubt that there was indeed a Jewish temple on that very spot. And this would reaffirm the spiritual and historical right of the Jewish people to the site. It is worth remembering that the official position of the Islamic authorities is that there never was a Jewish temple there. Therefore, Israel has no right to the Temple Mount. If the Ark were found, this narrative would fall apart. Imagine that. The Ark of the Covenant, the most sacred relic in the history of Israel, still hidden beneath the soil of Jerusalem. Hidden, protected, waiting for the right moment to be revealed. It is difficult to even imagine the impact of a discovery like this. In biblical times, it was said that any impure person who approached the ark would die instantly. And today, what would happen if someone touched it? If it were removed from the chamber? If it came to light in the modern world? Do you believe that the ark is still there, waiting for the prophetic moment to be revealed? It is a true privilege to share with you these stories, these mysteries, and these truths of Israel. Don't stop your journey here. Above is a video for you about an intriguing mystery that has been happening at the sealed gate of Jerusalem that the media is ignoring. We hope you have a very blessed day. Until the next video.